Usually I would only bring my search and rescue dogs. So the golden lab down here, I will start by saying all my dogs are shelter dogs. The golden lab down there, his name's Buddy. He's retired now from search and rescue. He's got some breathing issues. When it gets hot, he just struggles to breathe. And in search and rescue, that's not a good thing because a lot of times it's super duper hot. So he's 12. The little Chiweenie running around, that's Radar, and he's 12 also. And then I have another one at home that's 12 also. We fostered all three of them during the summer and we adopted all three of them. Then the little pit bull here, that's Lucy. Lucy's leg, she's full of, it's a cancerous tumor on her leg. So she had lots of strikes against her at the shelter. She's 10. She's a pit bull, big mean pit bull, and she's got that cancer leg. So we fostered her for like 5 minutes and then we adopted her. This is Bowie. Bowie is 17. Bowie thinks he's a big boy, but he has no teeth. So he had 5 when we brought him back from the shelter, but after taking him to the vet, they were all floating, so we just said, take them all out. Trust me, look at him, it does not stop him from eating. So, and Scout's my current search and rescue dog. Although he looks like a lab, he's got 19 different breeds in him. German Shepherd's the most, then Giant Schnauzer, then Australian Shepherd, then Lab. My other search and rescue dog's named Thor. Thor can be a little, when there's a lot of people he doesn't know, especially if you get up, he gets a little bit nervous and he barks at you, and he's got a big bark. He is a Bloodhound American Staffordshire Terrier mix. And then Snugs, my other one, is 12 also. He's a Beagle mix of some sort. Now during White Flag, I'm sure everybody knows what White Flag is when it gets to be 32 degrees. My husband and I set up our garage and we take the dogs for the homeless people so they can go into the shelter. And we keep them in our garage, we keep it at 60 degrees, and we feed them, you know, so that we try and get them to go in. So that works well. I have a gentleman who's staying at St. Ben's. I've got his dog now. I've had her for a couple weeks, and I'll have her till the 1st. He's supposed to be going to live with his niece. So it's just something I enjoy doing. We enjoy making sure people can go into the shelters with, you know, and not worry about their animals. So there you go. So I would like to, now I will tell you before we start with Angie, we've never had animal response in CERT. They've just never done it here. I decided we needed to add it after going down to Dawson Springs and just seeing all of the animals running around and nobody knowing what to do, or during floods. You know, unfortunately when there's floods, a lot of people will tie up their dog, well then they drown. So, you know, I'm hoping that if a disaster ever happens, well, when the disaster happens, you guys will maybe have a better idea of what to do to help. If you're afraid of a bigger animal, you know, go on. I mean, just go on. You can remember we've talked all the weeks about only doing what you feel comfortable doing. If I see a big old dog, I don't care what the breed is, but if it's growling at me and showing me teeth, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm gonna keep walking and hope, you know, hope it makes it. But I'm not gonna put myself in danger. And I would never expect anybody else to do that either. I would suggest not putting dogs and cats together, because if they don't know each other, you know, my dogs are fine with other dogs and with cats because we foster a lot. But if you put a dog that doesn't like other dogs together, then you have a bloodbath. So you have to be really careful, or a dog with cats. Or sometimes cats with cats. Cats tend to get along less together than dogs and dogs. So anyway, so this is Angie. Angie volunteers out at the shelter a lot. She walks a lot of dogs. And if it's something that you'd ever be interested in doing, you could talk to her. She's got all the answers out there for dates and times, and I know there's 102 dogs at our shelter right now, and over 100 cats. So if you've ever thought about fostering, it's a fantastic thing. Now would be the time. We have all breeds, all sizes. You know, if you want a little dog, we got little dogs out there. If you want a bigger dog, we got big dogs. If you feel bad for the pit bulls, the big mean pit bulls, we got lots of those out there too. So all these dogs in here are super friendly. So Bowie, wherever he went, the little Chihuahua, he likes to bark, and he'll get this one started on barking. So that's why he's right here with me. If you don't want them around you, just tell them to go away. They'll go away. They'll go away. Okay, and on that note, Angie.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I can work this.
Okay.
You just tell me you want me to play.
Okay. So I ad-lib a lot. I would probably look up there, glance at it, and then just start talking. That's from being in the classroom in Tennessee for a long time. So, okay. So we're going to cover a lot. Most of it, what you're going to be dealing with is going to be household. And we all know most of us have pets. And that could include birds. It can also include hamsters. Unfortunately, it could include, if you're scared of snakes, it could even be a pet snake. And you can't, like she said, don't do anything you're not comfortable with. Like, I don't know if I would be comfortable handling snakes. I'm not scared of them, but I don't know if I'd be comfortable handling them. Also, it can include some exotic animals, and I hope we never have to deal with a chimpanzee or something like that, but you never know. It could happen. Basically, what we're going to try to help y'all with is just being safe. As a volunteer at the shelter, I deal with all kinds of dogs out there, from the biggest. We have a Mastiff out there right now named Shere Khan, and I'm also known as the Little Dog Whisperer. So if we have a snarly, snarky Chihuahua come in, I'm the person that gets the snarly, snarky Chihuahua, and I've got the scars to prove it. So whenever you go to encounter an animal, one thing I know this from walking dogs and stuff out there, when a new dog comes in, proceed with caution is the best thing to do. And that whole thing about eye contact can sometimes be true with the larger, more, likely to be aggressive dogs. And as you know, if it's an emergency situation and the animal's injured, it's more likely to be reactive at that point too. And don't put yourself in any kind of risk for that. You're going to encounter all kinds of different sizes, of course, and from my experience from being out at the shelter all the time, the ones that are most likely to be the most is going to be the little ones. They're going to be the ones that are most likely. The ones that might be more, believe it or not, most of the animals I deal with at the shelter that seem to be more agreeable are our pitties, actually. They kind of chill, go with the flow. Most of them. Doesn't mean it's 100%. It's not with any dog breed. It's not 100%. Whenever you go to one of these situations, and I'm going to talk about maybe the Smoky Mountains situation. Remember when the fires happened in the Smoky Mountains? They actually, they try to find owners first before they start evacuating animals. So they try to find the owner. A lot of times the owner has kids, they're scared, they grab their kids, and they head out. And when the Smoky Mountain instance, and I used to live in the Smoky Mountains, so when that happened up there, they were going up there and rescuing potbelly pigs, you name it, they were going up there to rescue it, but they didn't put themselves in jeopardy. Sometimes they had to go back after it was safe when the fire went through, and there was a case of a potbelly pig that literally went and dug itself down into the mud and survived. And so that happened. Whenever you're looking for evidence of animals, we all know what to look for. Possibly outside pens, possibly tie-out stakes, dog houses, even feces, that could possibly be there. So when you look for that, then you might be able to even ascertain when you do that what size is the animal. Believe me, Shere Khan, the Mastiff, what he leaves in the yard looks a lot different than a dog like Bowie leaving the yard. So, you might be able to figure out some stuff there. So look for that. If you have to enter a building or something, you might look for animal carriers, or in the case of cats, maybe even a litter box would give you an idea, because cats, as we all know, are notorious for hiding when they get scared. When my son's house caught on fire and burnt, the cats were the ones that they had the hardest time finding. The dogs were really easy. The cats were really hard to find because they tried to get under small things. You don't want to go in anywhere that might put you at risk, be it if it's a flooded area. Also, if it's an instance where you're trying to enter a home that's been damaged in a tornado or something, you do not want to go into a building that potentially could collapse on you, or you could fall through the floor, any of that stuff. So you want to be careful with that too. If you get injured, somebody's going to have to come in and get you. Which most of us have had an instance where unknown dog you've had to approach before. We know to be prepared for the unexpected. And anything can happen. Today at the shelter, we had a dog that decided he needed to make a run for it. And ended up from the shelter on 81, ended up at the airport. If they run from you, I would say that in that event, I would focus on the ones you can help first. Focus on them first, because number one, you're going to waste a lot of time and resources trying to go off after one that's ran. At least in a flood situation or something, if it can run, it potentially has the ability to get to higher ground or get somewhere safe. The ones that unfortunately somebody leaves their house, there's a flood situation, they put the dogs all in their crates and they leave, focus on them first. Yeah, and that's happened. I mean, that's happened quite a bit. It happened a lot down in New Orleans during the hurricane. So, yeah. And we run into this with young people a lot. And I hate to say it, but when I first started going to the shelter, I did it a lot because I think every dog loves me, I assume, getting in their face. I'm lucky I still have my face, because if you get in their face, if they're already scared, stressed, they're going to be reactive, and you put it right there for them, and that's not fun. I've got my lip clipped by a Chihuahua or two. I wouldn't dare get down in the face of a extremely extra large dog like we get at the shelter sometimes. Also, like, whenever I'm dealing with a dog that has issues, I kind of real chill. Like, if I can get them out and take them to the play yard, I'll just go sit on the other side of the play yard. That basically is how you can do it in real life. Just be real chill. I know you're going to be panicky, especially if you're doing this in a situation that, floods, fires, any of that stuff. You're going to be panicky, but just be chill. That's about that. And sometimes you have to fight your inner self to try to be chill. It's how you're presenting yourself, really, more than anything. I already had talked about avoiding the direct eye contact. We have a foster dog in my home right now, and it's just a little terrier. And he comes from a pretty rough situation. He gets along fine with me because he'd already been introduced to me at the shelter. My husband meets him, and my husband is really bad about going like that. And we've had the dog in the house for a month, and it's just now getting to where it lets my husband pet it, because we had to have a whole talk about the eye contact, and so it's for real. So if you can gain the dog's confidence, great. That would be ideal. Hello, did I gain your confidence? If you can gain it, great. Containing the dog. I don't know how many of y'all have ever had to move hogs before, hog panels. I've actually used anything that would resemble a hog panel to move a dog before, because it protects you, and it can be anything. I picked up a dog bed at the shelter before and done that. That's just one of my little tricks that I use. Of course, you also have to take consideration, if there's only 3 of them going out, take that into consideration too. Or if there's only if there's a large team, you might be able to do more. And also, you have to know your limitations on that kind of situation. If you're not comfortable with large dogs and you roll up on somewhere and they basically, all they love is Rotties and Mastiffs, and they make you a little nervous, move on. Maybe there'll be a group that comes on after you. They're like, oh my gosh, I've never met a Rottie I didn't like. So that kind of situation. If you say sit firmly, a lot of dogs are going to actually react to that. And actually at the shelter, it's really funny because we'll get dogs that come in, obviously had no training, and we have a dog walker out there named Natalie, and she can get them all to sit. She's firm, and she can get them all to sit. I'm not that good at the sit thing, but it is important to do that.
Just try.
Yeah, to try. The hand gestures work really good. They do that because we do that with all the dogs at the shelter, and that's a really good proving ground. If you're uncomfortable with, you know, big dogs or whatever, and you're doing this and you want to actually be more comfortable, coming out to the shelter and meeting some of the dogs out there and just taking them out walking them, especially
Great dog.
ones
Great dog. Gets everybody working.
that could potentially make you nervous.
One barks, everybody barks. But yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a great idea. Even if you just go out once a month, just make yourself comfortable with all the different kinds of dogs. Little dogs, big dogs, medium dog. You know, if you're a little bit concerned about the bigger breed or bigger breed dogs, super nice, and it'll say right on their cage, this dog can be walked by anybody.
Right. Because when I first started going out there, I didn't have a lot of experience with giant breeds. I've never been around a Mastiff before. I've been around some Rotties, but never had the situation where I had to walk them. And I learned a lot just by being out there and how to interact with them. Also learned a lot about dog behavior, you know. So that might be a good way to kind of test yourself, train yourself, you know, just come out there occasionally if it's something that you think that you might need to brush up on a little bit. Dog attacks do happen, and you know, to call, if you're in a situation where you roll up somewhere to evacuate animals and it happens, I would say get away as soon as possible. And sometimes, even dogs that live together, when they're panicked and stuff, they will actually go after each other, and don't get in the middle of that. We had a situation where one of our dogs went after a dog at the shelter, and I had the dog that I was walking lunged after a dog that was walking by, and I had to pull back on the leash. Luckily, there was an experienced dog walker on the other side that pulled back, but not before they made contact. And you don't put yourself in between two snarling mouths, ever. Don't ever do that, because you don't want to walk away with the injury that will cause you not to be able to do what you're dedicating yourself to. And it can happen just like that. So, if it does happen, and this is really good, my grandson practices this one, cover up your head and curl up in the ball. Even if they're going to get you somewhere, you're making a much smaller target, and hopefully it will be, if they do get you, it will be somewhere that would cause, you know, the least damage. You want to make sure that this stuff is covered. And like I said, this stuff is covered. Oh my goodness. our lovely assistants are kind of distracting.
And I will tell you, the don't, or back away, don't run. Never run away from a dog. You're asking the dog to chase you. Somebody said kick it. Don't kick the dog, because now you're showing aggression, and the dog's going to show more aggression. Just back up. I've had an encounter. Just back up, as you know, you're going to get bit. I got bit 4 times, but you're going to get bit. But a little bite is a lot better than like losing an arm or a major attack. So don't kick it. Don't run. Don't scream and holler. Just try to walk away quietly and call 911.
That just escalates.
Yes, it does escalate everybody.
Yeah, if you ever decide you want to foster for the shelter, keep that in mind, because my foster, he has issues because of his situation. And if you run through my house or you make loud noises, he reacts. So my grandson's been staying with me this week from Louisville, and we've had to go over that many, many times about the don't run, you know, don't kick at him, which he doesn't do that, but I go over all that stuff with him, and it applies to all of them. Okay. I can say I've had a few of those.
Me too.
I can tell you from just as a volunteer, it is emotional. It's very emotional. The idea that you can't help them all, and you're going to run into that, is that you can't help them all. It does get you. It will, but you just have to move on, and just keep in mind that you can only help the ones you can help. And
Like we were talking about, same thing with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Don't put yourself in a position to make yourself part of the problem. Same idea.
So, they do help, animals can help reduce stress, but they can also cause a lot of stress. In the situation, if you're trying to save them, it can be very stressful. And like even when us volunteers at the shelter, we feel stress, quite a bit, because, we have an important role there, and when dogs come in, the staff relies on us to socialize them, get them out. And sometimes you'll have dogs that come in that want no part of that, but you've got to figure out how can I have them, do this to give them the best opportunity to potentially leave the shelter, So we all know how important it is to microchip those dogs, dog tags, all that stuff in the event of an emergency where dogs get separated from their owners and end up in situations where you're going to have to figure out how they can be reclaimed. I can't stress the microchips enough. And if somebody can't afford a microchip, they need to contact a shelter or a vet clinic or something to see if they'll work with them to try to get that. If that doesn't work out, at least have a collar with their information on it. Sometimes it's better if the information is on the side of the collar than on a tag hanging here, because if you've got a dog that's scared of you and growling, I don't think any of us want to go up and just grab a dog tag and try to read it, And in the event, let's say that something's getting ready to happen and you can talk to a bunch of people that have pets or whatever. If they don't have a dog tag, give them a piece of duct tape and a Sharpie and have them put that around the collar and write the information on it. So at least there's something to identify. Whenever, I'm gonna get my train of thought for a minute. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I know in an emergency situation, there's gonna be a lot of nasty stuff out there, and it's really important to stay clean, keep everything clean. Dog wounds are nothing to sneeze at, cat bites are nothing to sneeze at, keep everything, clean. The worst injury that I ever got, as far as wouldn't heal, it wasn't a drastic injury, was on my knee. And it was hard to keep it as clean as I needed to, because I still kept going back to the shelter every day and walking dogs when I should have stayed away for a few days and give it time to heal. And it's because it was impossible to keep it clean, because I was out there sweating, had dogs jumping up on me, dog hair, all that fun stuff. So,
and I will also say that cat bites are 10 times worse than dog bites.
Yes, they are.
FYI, if you get bit by a cat, you definitely need to go get some antibiotics and get some. A dog bite, depending on how bad it is, a lot of times you can just wash it out yourself, unless it needs stitches, but just wash it off. And cat bites, cats, their teeth are so sharp, they go right through the bone, and then you get a bone infection. And dog bites usually don't go into the bone. So, just FYI.
I like your laughing. Okay, so, and that applies to any type of wound, as we know, is keep them clean them out. This is true. Not feeding an animal is better than feeding it and then having issues later on. It really is. One of the things I can compare that to, kind of when somebody adopts a dog, I've gotten calls from adopters. There's like, my dog's not eating. I've had him here for 5 days. He's not eating. Leave him alone. They will eat when they get ready to eat. A dog that's been traumatized may not feel like having anything, may not even want water at that point if they're traumatized. They will, in their own time, come around. You also don't want to run the risk of them also deciding that they need to eat everything that you've got, and that happens too. We had a dog at the shelter once get into a bag of dog food that was sitting in the laundry room that had just come in as a donation.
So you just had a bag, you didn't have any food in it.
Yeah, so yeah, that was pretty much what happened. If I'm doing cat cages, which I do sometimes, I go out there and help the staff with that. If you have a kitten that makes a go of it out of their cat cage and there's any cat food out that you're getting rid of, they're going to go check it out. If we have buckets of dog food waiting to go back into the kennels and you're moving a dog from one kennel to the other, they will stop at those buckets to check out what's in that bucket and maybe have them a little bit of it too. So you got to have it where they can't get to it. So non-aggressive dogs sometimes can be a little bit difficult to work with because of the fact they're not aggressive, they're hesitant sometimes. Some of those dogs are, we had a dog at the shelter, and this is my best examples come from the shelter because I've seen everything at the shelter. We had a dog that was there, had no aggression to anybody, was very submissive, but was hard to walk because of the no aggression, very submissive, was almost scared of their own shadow. But we had to work with that, of course, and it's, you don't want to put that dog in a situation where they will become more scared because then it becomes more of an issue. I walked the dog this morning that just got into the shelter, has never been on a leash before, and that dog was terrified. It flopped on its back about 10 times when I was trying to just get it outside, and it ended up biting the leash in half. Because even the non-aggressive dogs get scared. The non-aggressive dogs too will kind of hunker back into some area that's safe, and you're thinking about a disaster situation where you've got a Chihuahua that's scared, and maybe it's not an aggressive Chihuahua, despite their stereotype. Not all of them are. Some of them are love bugs, and it goes back into the littlest area that it possibly can. You don't want to do anything to encourage that. If it's out in the open, try to get it to stay out in the open. So that you don't have to try to figure out, because it could actually go into an area you can't get to. So.
And remember that any dog will bite. Mm-hmm. Any dog. The dog that bit me 4 times, the woman, when I called her, she said, he's never bitten anybody. Mm-hmm. Okay, but he bit me 4 times. Mm-hmm. So and this was a super friendly dog, but any dog, all of my dogs are super friendly, but I will never guarantee that they're not gonna bite. So, and in a stressful situation like a flood or a fire or, an earthquake or a tornado, they're just as stressed as you are. They don't know where their family is. And here comes a stranger trying to take them away. So, a lot of it's common sense, but any dog will bite. Even Mr. No Teeth here, he'll gum you to death if he gets scared.
Yeah, my Pomeranian's the friendliest guy ever. But he would bite if he felt threatened or scared. He would try to. He couldn't do a lot. He doesn't have he has teeth, but he doesn't have a good jaw grasp. So,
never go alone.
No.
Sorry. I want to add that. Make sure you're not by yourself. Don't try and take a dog alone.
No.
It goes back to the basics. You don't do anything.
Correct. Correct.
Well, I guess in this term, we call them disaster buddies, because they're already called battle buddies.
Well, and I'll tell you what, this is kind of off topic, but we were down Tuesday looking for that lady in Litchfield, and I had Thor with me, and then my 2 backups were also from Daviess County. Thor went into the woods. I followed him into the woods and either hit a sinkhole or mine subsidence, something like that. I went straight down. My dog, he must have walked just perfect. So I yelled, and my 2 backups, they came running. They fell also in the same hole. Well, not in the same hole, but in the same area. And it took all 3 of us, and then there was one more woman with us, but she had stayed out. But we were in a hole. So don't do anything by yourself. It probably took us 15 minutes, and Jordan's on the radio going, I think, we found a, what do you call it? You weren't with us. A sinkhole. I think we found a sinkhole. A sinkhole. I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it was, but we all went down. So, and had they not been with us, had they not been with me, had I been by myself, I may not have been able to get out by myself. So, never do anything by yourself. Okay, sorry, off topic, but same general idea.
Okay, so I'm also going to add something here. Slip leashes are wonderful if you're dealing with a dog that you don't know.
That's what this is.
Yeah, a slip leash. Because in the instance that you have a dog that maybe is snarling but is not really aggressive, but you don't want to get close enough, you can literally lasso them with those. I've done it. Having a slip leash, I keep one in the trunk of my car. I work at the farmer's market. There's been many times that one of the vendors will run to me and say, we have a stray dog in the market. And they come tell me, I go get my leash out of the back, and A lot of times it's a super friendly dog that's come from one of the neighborhoods, but sometimes you're not for sure. Well, if that slip leash, because I can make it big enough, then I can kind of swing it and get the dog. Sometimes dogs will calm down as soon as they know they're secure. Now, we all have seen the dogs that do this as soon as they're on a leash, but some of them will calm down immediately. So I love slip leashes. I never used one until I was a volunteer, but I have some at my own home to use with my dogs, so I love them. A lot of times if you can get that slip leash on them and give them time, even if they're flopping, they will calm down, or they'll wear themselves out. You know, so you can make muzzles. I've gotten pretty creative before in the instance where a stray dog ended up in my yard. It wouldn't leave, and I knew where it went, but it was a dog that did only really liked its people. And I used my husband's belt to make one before. There's all kinds of interesting things you can do. The best thing to do is keep yourself safe. Don't do anything that's going to put you where you might have to get too close to try to do that.
I would suggest not using tape.
No.
You know, you want to make sure you use something that's easy to get off. You know, the lead, just wrap it around like that.
Especially duck seem to be real bad about pulling skin.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, but like that, he's not going to. I carry muzzles in my van, but of course I carry a lot of stuff in my van, but you can use about anything you can wrap around their muzzle.
A bandana?
Yeah, a bandana, or that shows there like a piece of gauze, that would work as well. Anything you can use to kind of hold that mouth shut.
A scarf.
And it doesn't have to be super tight, because you know they want to be able to breathe. And some dogs, he is not very good breathing out of his nose. He really needs to be able to open his mouth a little bit, but it's doable.
If you happen to be out and you're carrying a basic make-up, you're gonna have dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's, which I like the gauze idea. Most of us don't carry, an emergency situation, but let's say that you're out somewhere that you don't have all those supplies. Just look at what you got. You know, you're bound to have something that you can use. You know, I don't know how many of yours trunk or the back of your SUV is like a black hole sometimes. I know mine is. So, whenever, and like this actually works really well too. We use this at the shelter sometimes.
We'll demonstrate.
Huh?
We'll demonstrate the hole.
Okay, yeah, yep. So.
Just put your arm under their neck like this, and your other arm this way underneath their rear end. This dog is not going anywhere.
Don't have any leverage to do it.
Of course, he's a little dog, but I could do it on the big dogs too. And I can pick him up fairly safely. Okay, you don't need to squeeze tight. You're not going anywhere.
With a larger dog, you can actually get a better hold on them doing that way.
Yeah.
And that's super handy, because a lot of the vet techs know how to do that out at the shelter and use it. If it's an extremely large dog, like we had a Great Dane that had to be sedated outside before their surgery because they were so panicky, they called Wayne, the one guy. There's one guy that works at the shelter, that's Wayne. Wayne had to go out and get the Great Dane.
And sometimes it takes two people if it's a big dog, and that's okay. You know, especially if you have to lift them up to move them. Again, don't do it by yourself. Don't hurt yourself trying to help something else.
Yeah, don't
Use
try.
two people.
And like if you're trying to get them in a crate in the back of a vehicle or something, if it's a large dog, like in the instance, me and another volunteer had to transport a Great Dane to the vet, and it was bigger than this one I'm talking about that Wayne picked up. It took both of us, plus we asked somebody at the vet's office to be there to help us get the dog in there. The dog was scared. The dog wasn't aggressive, but it would fight going into the crate. And it literally did take 3 of us to get it in there to make sure that we did it safely and nobody got hurt. The dog didn't get hurt or any of that. And cats are just as tricky to get into a crate. A lot of times when I go to put a cat in a crate, a lot of times I go bottom first and set it up on its end and go down that way so that I can push the front. Yeah. So that works pretty good.
Oh, it's going to show you how to do this. This is in the very back. Oh, it looks like most people found it. I put that little extra tab back there to show it.
We got to dig in earlier. We're like, wait a minute, where is that?
Yeah, sorry, I should have said. Okay.
I would say even in instances where two dogs live in the same household, don't put them in the same crate unless you're desperate and it looks like they're a bonded pair and you're running out of crates. Don't put them in the same crate. When they're panicky and scared, their reactions are not going to be what their normal reactions would be. And if you don't have a cage, there's a lot of different ways to tether animals inside your vehicle. The one that I use frequently when I do doggies day outs with these big dogs is I'll wrap it around my headrest until I get it to where the dog can't get in my seat with me and it can't go back and forth and move. Because, you know, when they're going, I know a lot of y'all probably travel with your dog in the car with you and they want to go back and forth, and that's not safe. So I just wrap it around the headrest. That works pretty well for me. Other people have told me different ideas that they had with their seat belts and things. That's just the one that works for me.
They're ranged from, yeah, we can afford that, to why would I buy that? As far as price goes.
Right.
Depends on what it's for.
Yeah, I like to do the headrest thing just because all vehicles have a headrest in them. If you've got them on a leash, it's just you know, it's something everybody has access to. I have people try to correct me and say, well, you need to get one of those things that goes on the seat belt in the back of your car, you know. Well, the only time I'm transporting a dog that big in my car is when I'm taking them on a doggy's day out or I'm transporting, you know, so that works better for me. And you also don't want the dog to get too hot in your vehicle. It could lead to a lot of different things, but you don't want a dog throwing up in your vehicle or anything either.
The last one, we hear about that on the news all the time. People break windows, and FYI, if you have a dog and you leave it in your car, I will break your window.
I will too.
I'm just letting you know. I will break your window
I will too.
to get the dog out.
I will. Yep.
I almost brought one of my cats.
You almost brought
It was
that?
Buttercup almost came.
Yeah. Well, as we know, some cats are super friendly. I'm not gonna say they're not, but
Some are not.
some are not, and some of them you have to just handle a totally different way. If you ever came out to the shelter on a Sunday when I help staff clean and they put me in the cat room, it never fails, there's one that gets out that is not friendly, and I end up on a prone position laying on the ground just trying to talk to them to get them calm where they will eventually come out where I can, you know, I don't want to be a threat hanging over them or anything. So sometimes it works better to have two people, sometimes it don't, depending on the space that you've got. But working with two people so that maybe you can divide and conquer.
In your backpack, you are not going to have double thick armored gloves
No.
in your backpack.
But
just
there's probably a
FYI.
chance that you have a blanket.
Yeah.
Especially if it's cold weather time of year. I'm hoping most people keep a blanket in their car in case the car breaks down.
Yeah.
A blanket. My husband always has work gloves in the back of his car. I would feel safe putting his heavy leather work gloves on to try to do that. But if you are in doubt, just wait till somebody else gets there. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be a hero for that. It's always best if the owner can be there. Sometimes though, in a terrifying situation, they won't respond to their owner either. I was transporting my mom's cat to my house after my mom had a stroke, and she was coming to stay with me, and that cat was terrified. And my mom couldn't even talk to her and get her to do anything. And I end up, if you look far enough on my nose, I have a scar on my nose where that cat dug its claws into my nose and didn't want to let go. Oh. So it was literally hanging off of my nose. So cats, oftentimes, how many of you have ever just like had to shake a cat food bag and a cat will come running? They'll respond. If a cat's used to being fed wet food, they're going to respond more to the sound of a can, but some of them will just respond to that bag shaking. And just be calm. And if they run off, just go on to the next thing that you can handle. Don't, you know.
Cats are easier, will survive much more frequently than dogs will.
Yes, that is basically what the fire department told my son when their house burnt and they had opened everything, you know, what they could where the cats could get out, and they told them not to worry about the cats, that the cats more than likely would be fine for a few days out in their neighborhood. And they did recover, out of the 6 cats that they had at the time, they recovered 4 of them. 2 of them did perish in the fire. They got into a tight area trying to get safe, and But the ones that, what they did is they went back to where the house was. They tried to put out familiar things and food that they were used to, and they ended up getting the cats back, so that worked. Now, I can say honestly, I haven't handled a lot of horses. I have friends that have handled horses and stuff, and at the shelter, we have actually had horses that came under the care of the shelter, that we have wonderful fosters that have land, that already have horses, that have came and taken those horses. We had a terrible cruelty and neglect case here where there were several horses. One horse literally died.
I was there.
Yeah. And one of my friends, Julie, she took one of the horses in and ended up adopting it. It was like 100%, like 180, whatever, turn on that horse. Her daughter rides it now. So I do know that from my limited experience with horses that calm and patience is always the best way to go. I didn't ride horses growing up, but I did 4-H as a volunteer leader for many years and got taken out to horse judging clinics where I had to lead a horse out, and you can't, acting nervous around a horse doesn't work very well either. It's just staying calm and soothing.
Be patient, that's all.
Huh?
Just be patient.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when it comes to livestock, I do have some experience with livestock. Some. Now, sometimes you're not going to be able to control the situation. Emergency come up, you may have flip-flops on, and you're just going to have to try to do the best you can not to get your foot stomped. But I can tell you right now, it does not feel good to get stepped on by a pig. It does not feel good to get stepped on by a bull.
This goes back to comfort. If you're not comfortable, just move on.
I'm more comfortable moving hogs than I would be moving cows and bulls and things like that. I'm more comfortable moving hogs. All of us have working dogs that we can take. Yes. They will bite. And hogs have the brain reasoning capacity of a 10-year-old. That's how they can figure out how to open stuff. They can literally keep up with numbers. They're smart. Okay. They're smarter than most dog breeds. About the only dog breeds that would compare to them would be the working breeds that actually herd. So they will bite, and that's why those panels are really awesome. So if you get in a situation where you're back and you don't have a panel, make one out of something and move them that way. Keep that barrier between you and them. My grandfather, when I was a kid, he actually had a boar hog that attacked him and bit his leg down to the artery, and he lost his leg. Yeah, so don't put yourself in that situation.
Llamas and alpacas, we're going to skip that. I think I only know of one farm here in this area.
Now, sheep and goats, they can be relatively easy to deal with. Pretty much. I have quite a bit of experience with sheep. My kids showed sheep growing up, so I had to deal with sheep. They're pretty easy to move along. They're pretty usually docile. You'll have the one that wants to balk and not do what you, but you can still get them turned around pretty good. And they're pretty small. You got to think there is large dog breeds that are taller than some sheep and goats. So.
And they look big, but that's just all wool.
Yes. Yeah. So they're pretty easy. I would just say here, if you're not Siegfried and Roy and not comfortable with big cats, I would just leave that to the professionals.
I was going to say Siegfried and Roy didn't do that great either.
No, they didn't.
No.
But if
even with things like lizards and snakes are considered exotic animals a lot. You have to find an exotic animal vet, and I don't know who in town would do those. So, I would just.
I did take a lizard.
I'd move on.
I took a lizard to Kentucky and transported it once from the shelter and took it up there because they had to evaluate whether it could be saved or not. Okay. And I did transport that, but that's as close to exotic as I've gotten.
We're talking common sense here. Same idea that we're doing with everything else in this class. You do with animals. Size it up. If it's too much for you, move on. Nobody's gonna put any blame anywhere. Just move on. Your safety has to come first.
Yes.
All it is. This is out here. Everybody can handle this.
Well, like I said, you can't stress the importance of animal identification enough.
Yeah.
I really can't. most of our livestock around here are gonna have ear tags and stuff on it, because we have very responsible, for the most part, livestock owners around here. And in most areas, because that's their livelihood.
Okay, I believe that's all for this
Yes,
module.
I hope I helped in some way.
So does anybody have any questions for Angie? Like anything else, we need to size up the situation. Now, when it says light search and rescue, Scout, you want to handle this, Jeff? Sure. Be part of that for now. When it says light, we're talking light, okay? You are not going to go into a building that is possibly going to fall, and we will hit that. You want to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Katie Case. I have been on the team since 2018, I believe it was. Actually am the emergency manager for the hospital here in town. But I actually discovered search and rescue through CERT. I took CERT in 2017, and the search and rescue nights really kind of lit a light bulb for me. And I did all the prerequisites to join the team, and I guess that next year is when I was an official member. So I've kind of done every position from being a backup for a K9. I've only done that a few times. Being a ground pounder, so kind of boots on the ground. But now I'm more so in admin with the search planning, things like that. So, is that all? Is that all you want me to say? Cool.
Okay. All right. Yes, please. Keep going. Okay. All right. When we talk about deciding whether to go after somebody or not, it's a lot more than just the building. The video we watched at the very beginning, I've learned to show that at the beginning because it's got a good overview of everything we'll do. They did not go into the room that was, they didn't break the door down to try and get in the room that they felt like there was, potentially somebody in there they didn't know. They didn't try and break it down. We're not going to break down doors. We're not going to do any of that. A lot of search and rescue deals with not by yourself. Like I told you, that this falling in that hole the other day was a prime example. Don't even go into anything by yourself. Always pairs. All right. Like we've talked about, we're talking about rescuing the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time. Walking wounded. Your walking wounded are your people who, if I poked my head in that door and I said, if you can hear me, come to my voice. If you can hear me, come to me. Your people who are walking to me are your walking wounded. They might have a broken arm. They might have some major cuts. They might not have anything. But those are your walking wounded, and what color are those going to be? We'll see what you remember. Green. Good answer. Green. Those are your people who don't need something immediately. They just need to get out of the situation. Those will be your greens. Okay? And your lightly trapped people would be, well, everybody in that video we watched. Those are all lightly trapped people. The one guy had maybe a tree on top of him, a limb. Those are your lightly trapped people. Okay? You are the most important person there to keep safe. Sorry, dog here. You're the most important person to keep safe. Don't become part of the problem. All right? Size up, look and see what needs to be done. Quickly put it in your mind what can be done first, what can be done safely for everyone. Your safety is first, and then the survivor safety is next. Okay. All right, keep going. All right, gather the facts. Like we talked about, whenever it was, today, well, let's go June 20th, a Saturday, at a school. Is anybody gonna be there? Probably not. June 20th, or say June 21st, a Sunday, a church. Are people gonna be here? Probably so. Probably so, even if it's in the middle of the day. A lot of churches have things that happen in the middle of the day. So you're more likely. Construction and terrain. I always think of the Three Little Pigs. If it's a stick-built something, don't mess with it, because it's probably not gonna be standing very much longer. Do your look-throughs. If you see somebody, try and get them to come to you. If it's a brick building, it's probably gonna be a little bit sturdier, as long as it's not, you'll see pictures later of sturdier buildings. Occupancy, a nursing home or a church or a school during the day would have a lot more people, so you would go there first. Not that the 2 people that live in this house aren't important. The most good for the most number of people. If there's 500 people here and there's 2 people here, shooting for the 500 first. If you have enough people, you can send a couple over to get the 2 people. But shoot for the most number of people you can help. Weather, don't try and do anything if the weather hasn't calmed down somewhat. Don't put yourself at risk. Hazards, we will definitely discuss the hazards. Think about where you live. Think about what you're looking at, where you're gonna go help, what hazards. If there's dogs, that could be a hazard. Could very well be a hazard, you gotta be careful. And then the search subject profile. Are they little kids? Are they older people? Are they adults? Not that one's more important, but most good for the most number of people. Okay. Okay. All right, Katie, why don't you start on 2? Just about the damage.
Okay.
You're next.
So, being a community emergency response team, we really don't do much with a lot of damage. So light, moderate, or heavy kind of changes your kind of your mission and the purpose of why you were there. So the light damage, there might be some broken windows, superficial, maybe some cracks or breaks in the wall surface, minor damage to the interior content. So as you can see in that picture, a library, books are kind of everywhere. It is safe to enter there and remain in that building to do, well, not remain necessarily, but do what you need to do and get out. So, moderate damage, you're gonna see the visible signs of damage, decorative work damaged or fallen, many visible cracks or breaks in the wall, major damage to the interior contents. The building can probably still be on the foundation then, but again, you want to be inside that structure for a minimal amount of time. And then heavy damage, it's a partial or total collapse. Obviously, as you can see, maybe tilting, instability, it's off of its foundation. If you see or smell any smoke, fire, gas leaks, or hazardous material, stay away. Even if you hear individuals inside the house screaming for help, we know that that's very difficult. But again, like Denise said, don't become part of the problem. If there's rising water with flooding, anything like that, do not enter that building with heavy damage under any circumstances. The local first responders, they have people specifically trained to enter buildings like that, and we need to let them go in, so again, that we don't become that problem. How stable is the situation? Again, this can change continually. What secondary factors should be considered? Is there for instance, an earthquake? Is there an aftershock that has occurred yet, or will it occur while you're inside of a building? If you are inside of a lightly damaged building, you're probably still good. But if you're in a moderately damaged building, that can quickly shift to a heavily damaged building. So, what else could go wrong? Are there hazards that you're tripping over, that you can trip over or hurt yourself on? And then what does it mean for the search and rescue? Again, doing the greatest good for the greatest amount. You have to really, and it's a tough thing, because by human nature, we want to help anybody and everybody we can, you know. But that's not always the situation, we don't always have the opportunity. Again, if you have the opportunity to save 2 compared to 10, you want to save those 10. It doesn't mean that the 2 are any less worthy of being saved, but you're just still doing the greatest good for the greatest amount. So, and for search and rescue, that might mean that we have to put that search on hold. If it's putting us in imminent danger, then we need to kind of back off the situation and kind of size it up again. Again, assess your situation. Is it safe enough to continue? If at any point you have any doubt whatsoever if it's safe or not, just don't even try. What risk will rescuers face? So a lot of times we have a safety officer that will kind of tell us the different hazards or safety risks that may present to us along the search. In the midst of CERT, though, you may not have that type of luxury of having someone tell you all the bullet points of all the risks that you may face. So that's just something you have to keep an eye on. Constantly be aware of your surroundings, know what type of building you're going into, things like that. What resources are needed? If it's close to dark, like depending on the time, or if the power's out, you're probably going to need some flashlights. You're going to need some sort of source of light, probably a first aid kit, different things like that, where you can still be a help to someone, even if it's just kind of a literal Band-Aid or just a Band-Aid to kind of help them till they get to the hospital. And then what resources are available. So really being prepared with different types of resources, because again, first responders might not always be available right off the bat to come help every neighborhood. So rescue resources. So personnel, obviously, firefighters, police officers, doctors, nurses, contractors. If you all have ever been a part of a community disaster, you will come to know that, or quite quickly, that the volunteers kind of pour in, trying to do the good for all those people. So, but depending on the level of catastrophe, the roads might be blocked, things like that. So the personnel is really you and your neighbors, and everyone in your neighborhood helping each other. Tools. Crowbars, auto jacks, chainsaws, I don't know, generator might be up there. Things like that, where just anything and everything you can think of that during a disaster might come in handy. Kind of make a stockpile for yourself, or kind of a single spot in your home, garage, things like that, so you know where to go. And then any type of equipment. Establish priorities. So what should be done? Again, going back to doing the greatest good for the greatest amount. When you look at 3 different houses, you know that 5 people are in one, 3 are in another, 1 is in another. What are your priorities? What do they become? Do any of those individuals that you know have any type of medical issues, things like that? So just different priorities, and then in what order. So did we talk about SMART objectives in CERT at all? Okay. Well, I won't dive into that then. But anyway.
And I will, if I can add, if you go in somewhere and you see someone is very medically, needs a lot of medical things anyway, It's gonna be one of those times to make that hard decision. You know, if you go in and they're on oxygen and they're bedridden and, you know, all these numerous things, and there's 2 people there, but next door you got 2 people also, but they're mobile, you know what I mean? One of those tough decisions, you gotta move on and just hope and pray that the people who have more knowledge and more ability than you or I will get to that person who's medically fragile. Let's put it like that, medically fragile.
And that's the thing, in the medical field, everyone is always taught to do everything they possibly can for someone, right? That's the whole point of why people go into the medical field. But when a disaster happens, or a mass casualty incident, a lot of times they call it, that mind shift, or that mind frame kind of shifts for first responders. And I say that because a couple years ago, we actually had a full-scale exercise, and actually had nursing students who helped us out, and they were some of our victims. And one of their injuries, basically, I think she was bleeding out of an artery in her leg, and obviously she would have been a black tag, or red tag, which probably would have turned into a black tag. So the first responders at that point, they simulated making her comfortable, I think with maybe a morphine shot, something like that, but then stepped over her to go help some other people. Well, we had an after action report, or an after action where we kind of talked about everything, and you would have thought we ran over her puppy dog or like busted her bubble positivity, because in her mind she thought they should have done everything they possibly could to save her. But in that moment, a lot of people don't understand, we're still trying to do the greatest number, or the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. And that's that is a hard concept. And it seems so cold-hearted, but it's just what you have to do in that moment to kind of help that greatest number, because, and then help yourself. Like, you have to take care of yourself first, because you aren't going to be able to help anybody else if you get injured, you know what I mean? So
You almost have to put up a wall and like not think with your heart, think with your brain, not your heart. You just have to do what you have to do. And any person in here would really struggle with that, as would I. But it's just, I just hope you know I'll never get in that situation.
So make decisions. Keep in mind this, again, safety of the CERT members. We always try to tell our people, you have to take care of yourself first. You're not going to be a resource to us if you are not taken care of, but that also includes your family. A lot of times, if you're not injured, but you know family members are injured, it's going to be hard for you to focus on your task at hand. So you need to make sure your people and yourself are good to go, and then be ready to go, ready to deploy. And then the life safety of survivors and others, the protection of the environment, and then the protection of the property. Develop a plan of action. That is really a lot of the time what we do in admin on search and rescue. But whenever, again, this is you trying to make these decisions, in that moment, you really need to establish those priorities and make decisions. And this is a constant cycle. Your priorities might change from every 10 minutes, every 20 minutes, depending on, again, if there's an aftershock of an earthquake, that might change your priorities. And then always provide documentation to responding agencies. That's a big piece. So if you go into a house, someone has a large piece of furniture that has fallen on them, write that down. If you can't save them in that moment, you can at least tell firefighters, whoever, that hey, in this house, get the house number, this person is trapped under this in this room or on this floor. So as much as you can write down, obviously it doesn't have to be a novel, but as much as you can write down is very helpful for them. And then we always ask for that documentation because we can put that in part of the CERT records. And that can really help law enforcement. It can help with FEMA, it can help with legitimate search and rescue teams, things like that, to know, to be able to keep those records and things like that. You can go on. Again, evaluate your progress. It's going to be a continual process, and it might be a continual process of you might have to take a break. You might get tired yourself. You need to take a break, or you might not be able to get into a house, or you've come to a stopping point. Things like that. So it's just a continual process that you need to size up.
Read about it.
Read about it. Yep.
Yes, let's get that. You want Jeff to take over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on.
Jeff.
You don't like structural avoidance?
Nope. You got this. This is your jam.
Yeah. My jam. Structural void is a big fancy term meaning an area that has collapsed and created a pocket. And we've all seen disaster videos and TV shows where rescuers break through a wall to get someone out of an area. This is what they're talking about. This is it could be the second floor has fallen and part of the first floor is now cut off from the rest of the building. It could be the roof has fallen in. It could be a wall falling over. It could be anything that creates an area that you can't normally get to and people could be trapped there. So that's the biggie. Look at the big bold words, get out. If you see collapsed floors or walls, get out. It takes special tools, special training to get those people out. You don't have either one of those. Don't put yourself at risk because you can't help anyone in this situation. But like they've said many times, it's hard to do, but you need to move on because you can't do any good here. All you can do is get yourself trapped or hurt. Yeah, who watches Channel 25 when a storm comes through? How many times has Wayne Hart said, get in a bathtub and put a mattress over top of you to protect yourself from flying debris? That could be inside bathtubs. So if something like that happens and the house falls on them, now you've got collapsed structure, and they very well could be in the bathtub with the mattress and the football helmet, just like Wayne Hart says. They may be fine, but you can't get to them because you don't have the proper equipment to move the floor or the ceiling or the wall that's fallen on top of them. So that's the type of void. It could be you're in the basement and the house fell down on top of you. Now the basement is the void. You're safe, you're fine, but you can't get out and we can't get to you. Did we have an issue? No.
He peed on you?
Yep.
No. I apologize.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Lay down.
Okay.
Lay down.
Well, Denise handles that.
Sorry. Sorry.
Who's old enough to remember when you were in grade school they told you to go to your desk because of the nuclear bomb coming?
Bowie.
Yeah.
We still do.
You still do, yeah. A desk, it may be the only cover you have, but it's better than nothing if something is going to happen. So when you look through a building, assuming the building is safe enough to go into, you're going to want to look at these places like under a desk, inside of a cabinet, under a bed. How many times have little kids hid under the bed when they're scared? It happens. Look under the bed, inside of closets, anywhere, especially if you think there's children around. Children hide in really, really weird places because they feel safe there. So look in all of the weird places that you can think of that a kid may hide in. And you'd be surprised how small a spot a decent sized kid can get into when they're scared. Search markings. I remember when the tornado came through Owensboro and I saw the news footage. I wasn't involved in search and rescue back then. And I saw these X's and spray paint on houses and I had no idea what that was. This is what it was. When you go into a building, assuming the building is safe to go into, we don't like to use spray paint anymore because there's issues with people painting bricks. But anyway, You will mark the door. It could be a piece of duct tape. It could be something of that nature. You mark the door with a slash, and you put in different pieces of information. The date and time that you went in. The CERT ID, if you're CERT team number 5, or whatever your particular team designation is, you write who you are. And then when you come out, you complete the X, you write the time out, if there are any survivors and where they were found, if there are any deceased or injured individuals you could not get out and where they are, and then the area searched. So for example, if you could not get to the 3rd floor because the staircase collapsed, you make a quick note, 3rd floor not searched, staircase collapsed. The biggie, the really biggie is date and time in and date and time out. Because if you go in and you write down, we went in at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, whatever, and then you don't write that you came out 2 hours later, and now it's been 4, 5, 6 hours later, and another team comes through, they think you're trapped in this building because you didn't write what time you came out. Since you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. They're now going to have other teams search this building looking for you. So instead of helping people that need help, they're looking for you because you didn't do your job properly. You didn't do the documentation. It's wasted resources, essentially is what it is. So always write the time in and write the time out. If it happens to be a different day, say you went in at 11 p.m. and you came out at 12:01 a.m., make note of that. Date in, date out, time out. I know a lot of people don't like it, but the 24-hour time system is the best way to do this. Because there's no guess, is this 6 a.m. or 6 p.m.? 6 a.m. is 0600. 6 p.m., all you gotta do is add 12. That's right, 12 plus whatever time p.m. it is. That's just as simple as that. That way, there's no miscommunication. Did they come out 2 hours later or 12 hours later? And the survivor's note. If you found survivors, how many? 2 females, 1 male, 3 children, whatever. The biggie is if there are people inside the building that are trapped and you can't get them out, note where they are. 2nd floor, back bedroom, left-hand side, 1 person. Whatever. That way the next team that come through, they know there's still people in here. And they need to devote more resources or perhaps a different type of team to help get these people out. This is in your book. They actually make stickers that you stick on the wall and you fill in the papers. You're not going to have those because they cost money. And this is a volunteer organization. We have a 0 budget. So a piece of duct tape. A piece of duct tape is perfect because you can stick it to a window. It'll come off really easy and you don't damage the window. You can stick it to the front of a door. You might mess up the paint a little bit, but not that big a deal. So learn the documentation. Train yourself to add or subtract 12 to use the 24-hour time system because it causes much less confusion in the long run.
Oh, yeah. And you'll get one in your pack.
Just what you got. So here's an example. 2/15/08 came in at 14:30. Who knows what 14:30 is? 2:30 because he's track 12. Came out at 15:15, which is 3:15 p.m. We're CERT team number 23. Floor 1 and 2 searched. Stairs to floor 3 unsafe. 2 living moved to CERT 23 medical operations. Just that simple. The big thing is don't abbreviate more than you have to. Because just because you use a certain abbreviation doesn't mean everyone uses the same abbreviation. And when you cross your groups, the medical group will use a certain abbreviation, and the fire group uses a different set of words for the exact same abbreviation. And then you've got the civilian world who, I don't know what in the world any of you are talking about. Okay? So use as few abbreviations as possible. Misspell it if you want to, but abbreviate as little as possible. Next one. Remain within arm's reach with a CERT member. Like Denise was saying, she was doing her search and rescue thing and she fell in a hole. Well, if you are from here to the wall, you're not going to be able to run up and grab Denise before she falls who knows how many feet into this hole. But if you're within the distance of Katie to Daviess, Katie can grab Daviess if she starts falling into a hole, because Daviess is probably going to be trying to grab Katie as well. So stay close enough that you can physically touch each other. That way, if something happens, you can assist versus having to run over and assist. Call out to survivors. That's called vocal triage. You are yelling for people to come towards you. If you can hear the sound of my voice, come to me. Like Denise was talking about the walking wounded. They may be in some form of mental shock and they don't know what to do. You telling them to do something is going to jar them a little bit, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, cool, I can still walk. And so they'll get up and they'll go to the door. Whereas before, they're in a mental shock state, so they didn't think about going to the door, which sounds silly, but when you're in a very high stress situation, you don't think straight. You just don't. So you always call if you can hear the sound of my voice. And when they come to you, ask them, is there anyone in that room that can't move? Do we need to go get anyone else? Is the room empty that you came out of? So don't interrogate, interview. When they come out, ask questions. That way you don't have to go in to gain that information. You gain it from the people coming out of the room already. Survivors might be in shock or confused. Probably in shock and confused. The search patterns. When you go into any room, if you'll physically put your hand on the wall and don't take your hand off that wall, if you walk around, you will go into every closet, you will go into every room, you will go into everything in this area, and you will search it all. That's what this pattern is. If you follow the footsteps, eventually if you come to a stairwell, you will go up or down, depending on which way the stair goes. And so touching the wall, even if you can't physically touch the wall, if you follow the wall along the entire route, you will eventually search every single square foot of that building. It may take a while, depending on the size of the building, but if you run here and there and willy-nilly everywhere, stuff gets forgotten. If someone says, I'll check that room, if someone says, I'll check that room, and nobody checks that room over there. If you stay with your group and you go the entire route around the room, you will search each individual room, go down the hall to the next one, and down the hall to the next one, so on and so forth. Stop frequently to listen. You're listening for anything that doesn't sound natural. Tapping, movement, or voices. Everyone in the team needs to physically stop. Don't keep walking because you're making noise. It may be a small amount of noise, but you may be listening to a very weak or hoarse voice. They can't get very far. And they may not be able to talk, they may be able to tapping. So that may be it. Someone's on the other side of the wall looking for help. It takes a little discipline because you're kind of jazzed, you're amped up, your adrenaline's running, you're wanting to do this, it's a stressful situation, but you need to calm yourself down and stop. The entire team stop. And for some people, that is a very big challenge, to be completely silent for just a minute or two. I have three kids. If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. It's hard to make all of them stop at one time. You may get these two to shut up, but this one's still doing something. So getting the entire team to stop and listen at one time can be a little challenging. Go ahead. Triangulation.
We wouldn't do that.
We wouldn't do that?
No, that's fire.
Okay. Well, the triangulation is looking through windows without going into a building that you can't safely go into. See if you see anything.
Well,
That's
that you
all.
would do,
Yeah,
but I'm saying
that's all.
the way they're showing it, like you would look under we wouldn't do this. The triangulation. We look in windows, but the triangulation,
Yeah.
like if somebody's underneath that window over there and I'm looking through that window, I'm not gonna see them. But we're not gonna send somebody over here to look this way because now we've separated our people.
Yeah, you don't
way
separate.
too far away from each other.
Okay. Like Katie said, keep records. It may seem a frivolous thing to do or a waste of time, but you've got to think about the next guy coming in. You do what you're doing. You take notes. You don't want, like she said, don't write a book. You want to be brief, but you want to put as much information in as possible. So when you get back to the command post, you are able to hand that information off so that the next shift, and in a big disaster, you're going to have rotating shifts every so many hours. The next shift knows what was done and knows, okay, On this street, this block from 1, 2, 3 to 4, 5, 6, that's been searched. We have documentation. Whereas if you didn't write it down and you didn't hand off to the command post, they really don't know what you did. And so now you've got duplication of efforts, and you're searching the same building multiple times, and you're wasting resources and wasting time. So keep a notepad, take notes. When you get back to the command post, it makes it easier to remember because you're going to get a debrief. They're going to ask you what you did, where you went, and what you found. And if you're trying to remember all that, you're going to forget things. It just happens. If you only search one house, not a big deal. If you search 5 blocks, it's a big deal. You're not going to remember everything. So scratch it down on a piece of paper, keep it in your pocket. That way when people at command post ask you, you don't have to remember it. You read it off. And either hand them that piece of paper or they're going to scratch it down themselves. But always document everything you do. And then when other emergency services, such as the fire department or the sheriff's department or search and rescue teams get there, they have got information to work with, so they're not going in blind. You've become the scouts so that they know what's going on more so than they would if they just showed up. Grid search is the last thing in the world you want to do because it takes up a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and a lot of people. And in most emergency situations, you are short of people, you are short of time, and you're short of everything else. So we can do this, and on search and rescue, we have done this before, but it takes a huge amount of people and a huge amount of time. And once again, we're trying to do the most good for the most number of people. So if something has to be searched, 100%, no questions asked, we can do this, just like you see in news footage or on TVs and movies. You literally walk a grid. You get in a line, arm to arm, and you literally walk a grid looking for anything. You may be looking for clothes or a toy or any kind of clue that someone may be there. But for the search situation, you're never going to have enough people, you're never going to have enough time, so it probably will never do this when it comes right down to it. Rescue operations. Remove objects and debris to free survivors and create a safe rescue environment. Like the video you watched on the first night, it could be something as simple as a filing cabinet that's fallen over. A filing cabinet full of papers is kind of heavy, and if you're under it, you don't have the proper leverage to get it off of yourself. And so you may need 2 or 3 or 4 people to get it off of you. You're not really hurt, you're just stuck, you're trapped. And it could be something as simple as the refrigerator fell over, or if you've got a big screen TV, if it's not attached to the wall, it could have fallen over. Anything can fall over. And if you happen to be under it, it may seem silly, but you may not be able to move it yourself because you can't get hold of it. Assess the survivors and remove the survivors. So once you make the scene safe, make sure there are no hazards where you are. Make sure that they're safe to transport. If they have multiple broken limbs, you're going to need extra supplies and extra help to get that person to safety. So you need to assess them as much as possible so that you can move them safely. And then when it's safe to do so, you remove the survivors. Maintain rescuer safety. Like we keep saying, and I'm sure you're getting sick of hearing it, but you're going to hear it the rest of the class. You are the number 1 priority. You are there to help people. And if you become part of the problem, you can't help anybody else. Assess survivors in lightly and moderately damaged buildings. Evacuate survivors as quickly as possible. And once again, it could be something as simple as yelling into the door, come to the sound of my voice, and they self-rescue. Know your limitations. Everyone has limitations. I have many, and I know what most of them are. Follow safety procedures. Even if you think you know better, CERT has been going on for a long time, and a lot of really smart people have done a lot of research, and even though you think you can get by with it, you're rolling the dice, and eventually you're going to get caught. Follow the procedures, wear the safety equipment. Nobody likes wearing a hard hat. Some of us do for a living. A properly adjusted hard hat, you can bend over, tie your shoes, and it won't fall off your head. An improperly adjusted hard hat is a constant pain in the neck because it's always falling off. It's always in your way. So learn how to use your PPE correctly, and it will help you in the long run. As a glasses wearer, I'm forced to use goggles versus just safety glasses. They fog up a lot. If you spend a little bit of money, you can get a better quality safety goggles that don't fog up as bad, but they all fog up depending on how much you sweat. It's just part of the nature of the beast. Remove debris by leveraging and cribbing. Once again, cribbing, we're probably not going to do because it takes a lot of equipment, a lot of time, a lot of manpower. Who knows what cribbing is? It's basically where you take timbers or concrete blocks and something uses a lever or a crowbar. You pick it up and you block under it, one step at a time to get something off of someone. It takes a lot of pieces of 2x4s. I don't know about you guys, but I do not carry 2x4s in my backpack. It's just something I don't do. There are lots and lots of people out there with a lot better equipment and training on the fire departments. That's kind of what we do. We train a lot on cribbing. We carry cribbing on our trucks. So that's one of those things where this person is pinned, they are alive, they are relatively okay, they just can't get out and we can't get them out. Make that notation, make sure your command post knows about that so they can send the proper resources, the people with the proper training, to that person to get them out. Always, always, always lift with the back in a jerking, twisting motion, right? No. Yeah, really. Anyone who has ever worked at a Walmart or a Kmart or a factory, they've all seen this sign everywhere. Lift with the legs, not with the back. Smooth motions, not jerky motions. If you do it wrong, you're going to injure yourself and become a part of the problem. If at all possible, get someone to help you picking up things. You know, it's nice to be able to walk in and do something yourself, but don't be afraid to ask for help. It's you know, it's not a contest. You don't get extra points because you help someone all by yourself, okay? So back straight, bend the knees, keep the load close to the body, and push up with the legs. If you have balance issues, this is not for you because doing it the correct way, sometimes you can lose your balance. If you already have balance issues, always get someone to help you pick up something like this. Leveraging and cribbing. This is what we're talking about cribbing. It takes a lot of pieces of wood.
Sorry.
You're fine. A lot of pieces of wood that you're not going to have with you, and it takes time, and it takes multiple people doing the same thing at the same time to do it safely. You're not going to have the time, you're not going to have the resources, and you're not going to have the manpower. Go ahead. Self-removal or assist in lifts and drags. Once again, if someone can get themselves out, they may just need a little bit of a vocal, hey, can you get up by yourself? Do you need help? Lifts and drags. If at all possible, if you're by yourself or just two of you and you can't physically lift someone, there's nothing wrong with dragging them. Obviously, you don't want to drag them across broken glass or shards of brick because that's going to be uncomfortable at best. But you can knock that stuff out of the way. If you've got a blanket, get them on the blanket and use the blanket like a sled to drag them out. If you have enough people and you have enough equipment like a blanket to do a blanket carry, you can pick up people. It takes 6 to 8 people to do it. It's not that big a deal. We'll train on that here in a little while. But go ahead. Which extraction method? Well, the biggest thing is, what do you have with you to work with? General stability of the immediate environment. If the building's not safe, you shouldn't be in there to begin with. Number of rescuers. If there's 2 of you, you can only do so much. If there's 12 of you, you can do a whole lot more. Strength and ability of the rescuers. This is where you really have to self-evaluate. Is the group, whether it's a group of 2 or a group of 12, or whatever number it is, are you able to do whatever it is that you think you need to do? Or do you need to get more people? And the condition of the survivor. Like they said earlier, you hate to think about it, but you need to think about it. If someone is in dire situations and it's possible they may not survive, you may need to move on.
So you'll send people to get them.
Yes. Always note where they are and what the problem is, and give that command post so that they can send the proper people with proper training. It's going to be one of the hardest things you ever do to, like she said, step over someone in reality. That was an exercise, and the woman was like, you know, why did you do that? In reality, it's going to be much worse because they're going to be there and they're going to be talking to you. They may even be pleading, save me, help me, save me, help me. And you've got to do what you've got to do based upon the situation. It's going to be very, very difficult to do sometimes. A one-person arm carry. This is the hardest one to do unless it's a child. Because all the weight is in front of you, it's very difficult to balance someone of a certain weight. So that works for children, not so much with adults. We're going to skip that one. The pack strap carry, the way this works is the weight of the individual is carried through the hips and through the legs, so most of the weight is on the largest muscle groups in your body. This actually isn't that hard to do.
Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna pause right now, and who is willing to try this one? I would need 2 people. You can even use him. The little boy would be fine. Okay, you guys? Anybody else?
You
Okay.
look like me? What?
Honest to goodness, this is a fairly easy carry. Okay. Why don't you come here? Yeah, I could let you. Okay, so I will demonstrate with him, and then I will let you guys. Yep, you come on up too. Okay, and you get to be my guinea pig here. Okay, I'm going to show you how easy it is. Let's say they have a broken leg or something and they just can't walk. Okay, over here, I'm bending down and I'm just going to lean, like lean forward. Can I carry him a long way? No. But can I get him just far enough to get out of the building? Probably. Can I do it without falling? I hope so. You know, hopefully there's something I can put my arm on if I start to get a little unsteady, or I could just stand it back up and say, just stand for a second. Let me get my feet back under me. Okay? A big, heavy person, I know I can't do it. So I would ask for help. But we're going to learn how to do that. So, who wants to try carrying who? And you don't have to go very far.
It really helps if the 2 people are very similar in height. Because if you get a big height difference, it makes it
There you go. Okay? So why don't you go stand on the other side just for steadiness purposes. There you go. See, guys are usually pretty stronger, or much stronger at that. There you go. Could you do it for a long way? No. But
Stop, setting down, waiting.
yeah, but could you get him out the door? Yeah, and sometimes that's all you have to do to where there's more people. Get him out the door. Get him or her out the door. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to show it's not difficult. It's definitely one of the harder ones, especially if they're heavy. But everybody can do it. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And the rest of you sitting, don't worry, because there's more.
And the thing is, if you try that and it's not working out, you can try a different technique.
Yeah.
That's not the only technique.
No.
The 2-person carry. This is easier because you've got 2 people to carry the weight versus 1 person. The trick with this one is, if you've got one person bigger than the other, they need to be here because they're carrying the upper half, which is heavier on a human, and the smaller or more petite person, the legs are not nearly as heavy. This is easier because you've got 2 people versus 1 person.
Okay, so who's going to try this one? We're going to start you sitting in a chair. It's just easier. That way you don't have to be on the floor, okay? Okay, there we go. Okay. We need 2 more people.
And a variation of this would be a 3-person.
There you go.
1 person on each leg and 1 person on the upper body.
It doesn't matter. Whoever. You all can try it. I mean, there's plenty of. Okay. You want to sit?
I'll let you do the heavy.
So, okay. So you sit.
One thing I'll say about this picture, if you're the person on the legs, it is much better if you are facing away. That
Hey,
way you're not
listen.
walking backwards.
Listen, please.
Because anyone who's walked backwards carrying something heavy, it's not a lot of fun. So the person with the legs, if they turn around, that way both of you are walking in the same direction. It is much safer and much easier to actually
Left leg is wet.
All right. So you're gonna get around in there. Pick your legs up. No. There you go. Around her. There you go.
Ready?
Got her.
Nope.
Got him.
Good.
1, 2, 3.
There you go, good grip. That's good.
Okay.
No.
That's all right. You want to try in the front? Okay, let's try again. Go ahead, sit down. Okay. That's all right. It's not easy. Well, I don't think you can, I think he's gonna be too heavy for you, you think?
Very safe.
Are you strong? I like that. Okay, all right, let's try it this way.
It kind of messes with you on that chair.
I know, but it's easier than being all the way on the floor. I'm gonna pull it out as soon as I
Yeah.
can.
Sir, wait a minute. If you'll grab with the knees,
There you go.
there you
Then
go.
we gotta put it.
Sorry. 1, 2, 2, 3.
Careful.
There you go.
Okay.
How did you guys do over there? Okay,
Always,
there you go. Jump and ran. Yes.
always talk with your partner. Talk to each other,
Yep.
just like they did. 1, 2, 3, lift.
Lots of communication.
Chair
This
carry.
is the easiest one, I think.
The good thing about the chair carry is now you have handles. The back of the chair is a handle, the legs are a handle. It's easier to get a hold of versus grabbing someone by the back of their knees or around their chest. But it's basically the same procedure. You just have handles now because of the chair involved.
Yep, so who wants to try this? You could do it 4-person chair carry, or you can do a 2-person chair carry. Okay? There you go. Okay, I need somebody in the chair.
Does anybody want to become the designated?
Okay, you're in the chair. Okay. Now, communication is super important, so make sure you might want to turn, well, yeah, that's fine. Just remember, it's hard to walk backwards. Nope, I would hold him right here.
It's right here.
Yep. Now, you're in charge. So you're gonna tell him what to do. There's always accounting involved, okay? First thing you wanna do in a chair carry is lean them back. Get that weight more toward the back. So, count, tell him, what are you gonna move on?
3.
There you go,
1, 2, 3.
okay?
Up. 1, 2, 3. Up.
There you go.
Don't you feel royal?
Same thing when you go down. You count to put him down, and then count to stand him back up on the chair. There you go. That one, yeah, nice job, guys. That could be done with 2 people or with 4 people. 4 people is obviously even easier than 2 people.
Thank you.
Nice job, guys.
Thank you.
Blanket carry. Where are my medically trained people? You've probably done the training for a blanket carry, moving patients from one bed to another bed, changing sheets, so on and so forth. We do the fire service all the time because you get someone who is hurt on the 2nd floor of their house and you can't get a gurney up and down the stairs. So we do the blanket carry and it gets them down to the ground floor, put them on the gurney and then get them in the ambulance. It's
You brought the hair pole with you.
Yeah. You were laying on it, but move it on.
the biggest thing with any blanket carry is getting a good grip.
Lucy.
So you want to roll the blanket until you get a good handful of cloth, because it's much easier to grab a hold of this roll versus just the cloth itself. It'll slip through your fingers. So once you do this, get a nice roll so you can get a good grip with both hands.
And this is easy to do with, I mean, you can use 4 people, 6. The more people you have, the easier it is to carry the dog. Okay? So, I need someone in the blanket, and then I need, let's go 6 or 8 people, whatever you want.
At least 6.
There you go. Say, let's get some of, who hasn't done it but needs to try it? You all come on, because we can do this one a lot. I have more blankets, so you guys go ahead.
I'll lay down. Okay, we have a big.
Do you want to be a victim? Do you want to come up here and lay down and let him carry you in the blanket?
All right, let's get 2 more people.
Okay. Lucy, come on.
Come on, we need 2 more.
All right.
Two and two.
She's got 2 more. Yep.
Right in the middle.
Let's get at least 6 people. Okay, and here, you guys can have, do
Get
him.
nice.
Okay, come on over here, hon.
And whoever is at the head end is in
This little
charge,
boy.
they give the 1,
Little
2,
boy's
3.
gonna lay down.
Talk
You
to
wanna
each
do
other.
that?
That's a
That's
small
all
one.
right.
You can do it.
Okay?
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Where we walking?
Going back. You got the count of 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, up, 2, 3, down. 3, go that way. 1, 2, 3.
These give you something to grab hold of, because you roll it up, make a nice handhold. Also, it allows you to move them with a fairly little amount of friction. Now in here, you got this nice slick floor, it's really easy to drag people. On grass, it's pretty easy to drag people. If you've got, dirt, rocks, what have you, the blanket provides some protection for the victim so that when you drag them, you're not scuffing them too bad. It may not be comfortable, but you're not gonna injure them.
Okay, let's get 3 people who haven't done, people! Let's get 3 people who haven't done anything. Come on up.
We got
I guess I'm gonna give you a different blanket. Oh, you got that one. All right, I guess we're going with this blanket.
All right, where's my victim?
Okay, who's,
Not you.
you get to be the victim.
All right. So just like the blanket carry, get a big wad of the cloth in your hand. Obviously, since you're dragging, you're all going to be on the same end because you can't drag in multiple directions simultaneously.
Yes.
Communicate.
I'm gonna try and drag
Once
her.
everyone gets a good handhold, oh, she'll communicate with me.
Lucy, get out of the way.
Once again, with 2 or 3 people, you're spreading the load out.
Okay.
Those 3 people may not be able to pick that victim up, but they can definitely drag that. Yeah, we do.
Nice job. Nice job. No, thank you.
I forgot what the next one is.
We're not doing.
We've done that.
Yeah.
We've already done that. How do you decide whether to attempt rescue? Do you have the resources, be they manpower or woman power? Do you have the proper equipment? Do you have what's needed to do this particular rescue? If you do not have the resources to do the rescue, you note where they are and what the issue is, and you pass that information along. You tell the victim, I'm gonna leave you now, but I'm telling people where you are, they will come for you. Always tell the victim, if they're conscious, that rescuers are coming back. We're not abandoning you, we will come back. I just can't do this by myself. The objectives of interior, exterior search and rescue, always walk around the building. Because just because you walk up to the front of a house or a building, everything looks fine, doesn't mean that the backside of the building hasn't collapsed. Always do a 360 around the building as one of your first pieces of your size up. Building markings, make your stripe, notate, and then when you come out of the building, you have finished your search, complete the X, fill in the blanks for all the information. Removing debris, pretty simple. If it's in the way, move it. If you don't have to move it, don't waste your time. If we're moving a victim from here to the door, we don't need to mess with that half the building at all. If this is the only victim here, we don't clear up, we don't clean the kitchen, we don't do the dishes. We're getting this person to that door, that's all we're doing. Stay on task. And for some people I personally know, they're a little squirrely and it's hard to stay on task. So do the best you can with what you got.
I know who you're talking about.